How badly do you want to get better at offense? If your answer is that you want to improve significantly, this video is for you. We're going to be going over different aspects of the game that if you start to implement immediately, you will improve significantly on offense. The first thing that we're going to be talking about is processing. Processing is the ability to look at the defense and take as much useful information out of what you see as possible. The first thing I want to do is I want to show you the different coverages and how you can sort of get an idea of what is being run without snapping the ball based on the alignment. And this will help you to understand exactly what adjustments or play calls you have to make in order to beat that coverage. The first coverage that we'll go over is cover zero. You can see that all of the players in coverage are man aligned outside of the safeties, but the safeties are a lot closer to the box than they normally are. The first thing we'll go over is cover zero. This is a man blitz and it's identifiable simply by looking at the cornerbacks, the players in coverage. They're going to be man aligned on their receiver, and most of the time they're going to be pressed. Sometimes you'll even see people bring their safeties up into the box like this to cover the running back because the running back would have been open on a wheel route. Some people don't, some people will leave their safety up, but either way, if you see the man coverage and then the two safeties aren't 15 yards deep, they're a little bit closer than normal, it's a good chance that it's going to be a blitz. However, even if they are back and it looks like it's going to be a cover two, which we'll go over, it's not the end of the world because you still know that you have man across the front and you can run man beater routes. The only reason that the safeties being up is important is you know that you're probably going to have to get the ball off a little bit quicker than you would if you had a traditional cover two. Next up is cover one. Just like cover zero, this is always going to be man coverage, and it's the same sort of identification where you have the players in coverage are man aligned on their receiver outside of the linebacker and the safety, who in this play, the linebacker takes the middle zone and the safety takes the deep zone. Unlike the cover zero, the safety is 15 yards deep so he can get vertical, and that shows the difference between the cover zero and how you can sort of guess it's a blitz versus the cover one. Cover one can be a blitz. The only thing that labels cover one is the safety having the deep blue zone. Other than that, this linebacker could have a quarterback spy. He could be sent on a blitz. He could also have the middle read. These all have different names as well. For example, this is cover one robber. The last man coverage play that you're going to see is cover two. It's very similar to the other mans where you see the players in coverage are man aligned on their receiver, and then you have two deep safeties, both responsible for half of the field. Now, unlike cover one and cover zero, there's an alternative for cover two that is zone. We'll go over that in a second when we start paying attention to the zone coverages. I want to talk about some of the route combinations that you can have that will beat man coverage. I said I didn't know what that receiver was. It's definitely Mike Evans. Honestly, for some reason, I thought I was playing as the Giants, and that's why I was confused. I feel a bit like an idiot now. Anyway, man coverage is weird because it's really good in Madden 23, but it's also one of the easier coverages to beat. Corners tend to stick to their assignment like glue, so what you want when you're looking to beat man coverage are routes that make that corner stay in coverage for as long as possible. So normally you're going to want something like a slant or a drag route, something that looks like this, or crossing routes, which I don't have one in this play, but they tend to give the receiver enough time to just beat the corner. Something that the defense can do to stop that is they can go to the coverage adjustments and just press inside, and that's starting the defender on the inside instead to try to take that away. So you have to pay attention to that a little bit. Normally you can see the adjustment being made. Right now you really can't though. The other thing you can do are routes like Godwin's here, and they're like double move routes where your receiver will go in one way and then out the other, out one way and then in the other. It makes it really difficult to stick with them. So if you just snap the ball, you see Godwin almost always will get separation there. Plays like Y trail with the tight end angle there, the red route, are also very good because if they are running cover one and they have a user, he has to choose between one of the two man beater routes and you just throw to the other one. Bench pivot is another really good play to run against man coverage. I think this might be my go-to red zone play against it. It tends to get the receiver open. The biggest thing when your opponent plays man coverage is not to get discouraged. Sometimes it's not going to work for a play. Just try to do whatever you can to minimize your loss and then get ready to run the next play well. Because ultimately, unless the opponent's team is significantly better than yours, you're going to beat his coverage after a while, however long it takes. The only time that might not happen is if his team is just head and shoulders above yours, and you're going to struggle to move the ball against anything. This is cover 2 zone. It's meant to discourage passing from like 0 to 15 yards from the line of scrimmage. It looks relatively close to how a cover 2 man look is set up, but you'll see that the corners on the outside aren't pressed and nobody really is man aligned. I think that the big thing is in a bunch formation like this where there's not a deep outside receiver, you see that Trayvon Diggs is way off to the side there. Something that can help you to guarantee that you're differentiating cover 2 from cover 2 man or cover 3 from cover 1 man is you can just send one of your players on a motion. If the player that's in front of them follows them out, it's cover 2 man, but you can see that Micah Parsons does not follow Rudolph. If I put him back, he doesn't come all the way over. This is clearly not man coverage. When it comes to beating cover 2, there's 2 places that I want you to be looking at consistently throwing to. You want somebody going into the flats like Bernard to try to get Trayvon Diggs to come down and cover him. And then you'll have that corner route open almost every time. If the corner route's not open, that means that Trayvon Diggs got deep enough to cover that and Bernard's wide open. The other hole in the zone is because these 2 safeties are playing so deep and they're both covering half of the field, the middle of the field is almost always going to be open. So a post will take care of that. So if we go ahead and snap the ball, we look, Trayvon Diggs got pretty deep. That's Giovanni Bernard for 5 yards. If you do that every play, you're going to score. I don't know if Mike Evans' post is going to get deep enough, but we can look. He's open there. That's a completion. Easy ways to pick up yards. This is a cover 3. It used to be hands down the most common coverage you see. It's still probably one of the most common, but cover 4 is definitely used more often. You can tell that a cover 3 is a cover 3 by looking at the corners first, and you'll see that they're 7 yards-ish off the line of scrimmage and they're not playing press. And then you have one safety right in the middle of the field. Cover 3 is really good for preventing deep plays while also covering the shallow area. It really is one of the best all-around coverages. But man alignment really isn't a thing here, and that's how you can sort of identify it. Cover 3 gets hard to beat in Ultimate Team when there's all 99 overalls who can make plays on the ball really well, but it's honestly one of the easiest things to beat early in the game. All you really need to beat cover 3 is something like 4 verticals, because you have 3 deep zones with the 2 corners and the safety, and you have 4 receivers running deep. It's 4 on 3. Somebody's going to be open. If you snap the ball, Russell Gage will get pushed a little bit, and then he's open up the seams almost every time. Something else that's important to note against zones is running a concept that has somebody going deeper on the sideline and then somebody else coming underneath on the sideline. Tends to work because it's just a high-low choice, but cover 3 and cover 4 are going to defend those better than cover 2 because they have corners on the outside, and it doesn't need to be the safety coming from the top of the field over to help. So while it will work, you're going to have more success running something like 4 verticals against cover 3 and attacking the seams hard. Cover 4 is honestly kind of difficult for me to differentiate from cover 2, but something you'll see is the corners are still pretty far back, playing about 7 yards, and I actually think that the safeties are further out towards the numbers and not as close in towards the sidelines. And cover 4 has a pretty glaring hole because it tries to prevent deep passes, and because of that you have extra zones going deep. The middle of the field is where you attack it. So something like this play, which is a levels concept, is going to be really good because you have 3 receivers running towards the middle of the field at varying degrees of height. Even if the user is really good, they can't cover all 3. As the play goes on, the linebacker and the nickel corner are going to get depth and closer to the sideline, making somebody open. Godwin's almost guaranteed to get open on this play unless the user runs straight to Godwin. Now, you still have that corner flat combination. You can throw that. It's just not going to be as guaranteed as something like this. If we snap the ball, we can look at the linebacker and we see he gets depth, so Gage is open short. Lastly, we have cover 6 and cover 9, which are basically the same thing. And it's pretty easy to identify because unlike everything else pretty much, the DBs aren't mirrored. If you look to the left, that corner's playing off because the left side of the field is playing a cover 4. The right side, the corner is closer to the line of scrimmage because that side of the defense is playing a cover 2. With that being said, the same things that beat a cover 4 and a cover 2 will beat that half of the defense. Make the corner choose on the right side and then just flood the middle with options on the left. It's a little bit more difficult because you have to choose quicker if you're going to throw to the cover 4 side. If I snap the ball here, we'll see that he has to pick somebody open corner route. There's not a whole lot to talk about when it comes to post processing. The big thing that I want you to be doing is as soon as you snap the ball, look for the user and find the user, because that's going to be something that you want to throw away from most of the time. The other thing I want you to do every single time you snap the ball, look at the DBs or the nickel if the DBs are out wide, because you can disguise something. This does not look like man coverage, but as soon as I snap it, I can see that people are running to get to their man, and I know that it's man coverage. If you're paying attention to how the players react after the ball snapped and you're not sure if this is cover 3 or cover 1 man, you can make adjustments to where Mike Evans is going up the seam's going to get open, and you also have Chris Godwin running a man beater. Either way, you're going to have somebody to throw to here. And being able to identify whether something might be cover 1 or it might be cover 3 will help you narrow down your options and make sure that you can pick a play that's going to beat that. I had 3 categories for this video, but I kind of combined processing with how to beat coverages. So we're going to go into the last category. While I talk about this, let's do a little bit of a test. Based on the defense that you see, I want you to guess how you would beat it. And then I will put at the end of this little clip what defense it was to see if you're right. See if you learned something from the beginning of the video. So the last category is something that I feel like a lot of people don't think about, but it cannot be undersold. It's your mentality. Your mentality is extremely important for playing the game and playing it well. I briefly talked about it earlier, but if you have a negative play happen, just brush it off. It's not the biggest deal. When something bad happens, most people tend to try to fix it right away, and it doesn't normally work. If you lose 10 yards on a play, do not try to get 20 yards back on second down. You're going to put yourself in a worse position than you would have had if you just tried to get what you could the next play. We tend to think so short-sighted and we're only worried about the here and now, and that is not how we should be playing Madden. We're always going to lose that way. The other thing that I really feel needs to be said is if you are down, do not quit. Stay in the game, because even if you lose 50-14, if you've figured out how to score against the defense, you can pocket that for the next time. And instead of quitting every time you run into somebody hard, you now know how to beat them. Sometimes it's really not fun to do it that way, but it works and it works well, and you're going to have more fun at the game if you figure stuff out. The last bit of advice I have for you is to trust your reads. They may not always be right and you might throw some picks, but ultimately if you trust your reads, most of the time you're going to be right and it's going to lead to a relatively big play. The other thing you can do is think through different scenarios so you know your read's going to be right. I don't want to ruin the test that we're doing, so I'm not going to tell you what this coverage is. But for example, this coverage is most likely one thing, but it could be another. So now I've narrowed the 7 coverages down to 2, and I can trust the routes that I throw to now because I know that both ways I can beat it. If it's this, I'll do this. If it's that, I'm going to do that instead. That's really all I have for today's video. I'm getting sacked there, and I was actually wrong on the coverage. Hopefully this video helps you, and if it does, I'd appreciate a like and comment down below if it did. It's really awesome to be able to make videos that you guys can use, and I've thoroughly been enjoying it. With all of that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. God bless.